Just like the Earth was moving around the sun for 4.5 billion years before the Vatican even existed, we can live under the illusion that we are the most important actor on the cosmic stage, but we are probably not. And we should approach it from a sense of modesty, that we are just minor actors. Let's figure out what's going on here. Let's find them, and then have some relationship with those. These are siblings and of our family of intelligent civilizations. I had a group of religious scholars that came to Harvard just last year, and they asked me, if we find extraterrestrials, will it affect our religious beliefs? And I said, look, I have 2 daughters. And when the second one was born, it didn't take away any of the love that I have to the first one. So thinking about God as a parent that can attend to only one child is very limiting. There may be lots of siblings in our family of intelligent civilizations. It should just bring all.
Let me ask you this, though, because these are beliefs that you have, and they're not necessarily based on actual evidence, because there's not real evidence of other civilizations.
It's just a number game.
Right, but
yeah.
Okay, but that's not evidence.
Not evidence.
Right? So what do you think is the most interesting and compelling evidence of there being extraterrestrial life?
So, the reason I regard it as an important argument is the Copernican principle, which is saying we are not unique. Under similar circumstances,
right.
if you start with a soup of chemicals on a planet, you will get something like us.
Right.
And therefore, there are billions of Earth-Sun analogs, other houses in our cosmic street. Mm-hmm. They might have had, many of them might have had residents like us. Now, it's true
Maybe, but there's the issue of Earth itself. Earth itself has billions of organisms,
right.
but only one that figured out how to make a cell phone.
Right.
And really recently.
Right.
So it took a long time and a lot of weird things had to happen before it made us.
Right, but my point is,
But the probability is that we wouldn't exist.
No, but
we're more likely to have not existed.
If you read the news every day, you realize that there is a lot of room for improvement. As much as we are proud of our intelligence,
sure.
We're screwing up the world.
Sure.
Okay, and my point is, I can imagine a lot of much more accomplished students in our class of intelligent civilizations.
Of course.
And therefore, we should have respect for the search for them, because we can learn from them. They would serve
yes.
better role models for us. So I'm coming at it from a practical point of view. I'm saying we are screwing up things. Just read the news. And therefore, let's get inspiration, not from what we hear about stories of things that happen on Earth and so forth, not by the limited data set that we have on Earth, but collect as much data as possible about our cosmic neighborhood so that we can be inspired.
Of course. Now, let me ask you this. What would you do, like if somebody just wrote you a blank check and said, Avi, you've got some great ideas. We need to figure out how to look for life out there in the universe. What would you do?
Well, that's. I wrote a paper about that, and I said, we should attack this question along several fronts. One of them, we have the Rubin Observatory in Chile that is monitoring the southern sky. Mm-hmm. We need a copy of it in the northern sky, so we have a full alert system that would notify us of interstellar objects coming in. We need interceptors, a spacecraft that when we detect with those 2 observatories, we detect an object that comes from outside the solar system, then we can maneuver a spacecraft so that it will meet it along its path. And in fact, the Juno spacecraft near Jupiter was almost capable of doing that. So I realized that, wrote a paper about it, told the Representative Luna about it, and she wrote a very gracious letter, visionary letter, to the interim administrator of NASA, Sean Duffy, encouraging NASA to try and use Juno to observe and get close to 3I Atlas. If Juno had all the initial fuel that it originally had, it could have collided with 3I Atlas, but it used most of it. And I spoke with the principal investigator of Juno, and he promised me that they will also use their radio antenna to look at 3I Atlas in the radio, just to see if there's any transmission.
So what is the best? Please, go ahead.
Yeah, so interceptors, in answer to your question,
yes.
Potential fleet of interceptors, things that can come really close and take a close-up photograph because a picture is worth 1,000 words.
Right.
Okay? I don't need to speak. If I showed you a picture of something that looks technological, 3i Atlas has bolts on its surface and buttons that you can press, you will not argue with me that it's a comet. Okay?
Right.
So we need cameras that come close to the object, potentially even land on it, bring materials back to Earth. Okay?
Right.
And of course, the ability to detect such objects at large distances, that investment is at a level of billions of dollars, okay, to do that in space. My argument is once the first encounter is verified, we will have $1 trillion per year for that because we invest $2.4 trillion in military budgets. And when we know that there is alien technology that is putting Earth at risk, okay, then we should allocate a significant fraction of our military budgets to have a system that protects the Earth. It's called planetary defense, okay? And we are dealing not with rocks. We are dealing with technological gadgets. So it should be much more sophisticated. So I'm saying let's start with the level of billions of dollars, just search. If we encounter a clearly technological alien object, then the budget will rise by a factor of 1,000 from the military budget portion going into it. But in addition to that, of course, we should look for technological signatures in other ways. And I wrote papers about it over the years. I suggested searching for artificial lights. You know, you look at a planet, it's illuminated by the star from one side. Okay? So as it moves around the star, it's just like the moon, you know, you can see it, the illuminated side from different angles. Okay? However, if it has, on the night side, if it has artificial lighting, then what you see, you don't even have to resolve the planet, you see more light than you expect based on reflection of starlight. Okay?
Right.
So that's another thing you can search for. You can look for, the traditional way was looking for radio signals, which is just like waiting for a phone call. You know, nobody may call you when you're listening. So that didn't prove productive for
Other than the wow signal.
Other than the wow signal. Then, in addition to that, I wrote a paper saying, look, we are planning to invest $10 billion in searching for the chemical fingerprints of microbes in atmospheres of exoplanets. That's what the astronomy community defined in the 2020 Decadal Survey. It's the highest priority, and it's called the Habitable World Observatory. And I said, okay, well, it's nice to search for those chemical fingerprints of microbes, but we can also search for, the chemical fingerprints of industrial pollution. In the Earth atmosphere, we pollute the atmosphere with all kinds of molecules that nature would have never made. CFCs, for example. And we can search for those. Again, the mainstream is, they might make a footnote saying, oh, that is also possible. But I'm saying this could be a major research frontier where you search for industrial pollution of planetary atmospheres. Frankly, I find microbes boring. I mean, obviously, it will be amazing to find that life exists elsewhere, but we can learn much more from an intelligent neighbor than we can learn from microbes.
What are the best images that we have of 3i Atlas?
The best one so far was released by the Hubble Space Telescope, and it shows this jet pointed towards the sun. It was taken on July 21st, 2025.
That's the most clear image?
Yes, that's the best because...
See if you can find that, Jamie.
Yeah, it's actually in my... one of my... no. That's from the ground, Gemini South. That's more recent. That's at the end of August. So it's blue in one of my slides. You can see of 3i Atlas, July 21st. Yeah.